One of the most important things to remember when you're responding to these pole fires, a structure that is on fire most likely has compromised equipment. What's up guys, you're watching Bob's Decline. As you can see today I've got my I just get out of bed glasses on, my prescription safety glasses. So it's just after midnight here now. What we had was a call for a pole fire actually. So as soon as I get a call for a pole fire, first thing I do when I leave the house is I make sure that my computer system is fully booted up. When I show up at that fire, I want my maps to be up and running. I want to know the nearest point of isolation in case I gotta dump the whole area. If it's an absolute emergency, there is some remote locations that we can get our dispatcher to dump the line. If we go that route, generally it dumps thousands of customers. I'm on a 3-phase sideline. There's probably 100 customers up in here. And we arrived to pretty much what I expected, a porcelain cutout on feeding a transformer. So what we want to do is open the 3-phase line. It's just behind me like 6-span. That way, when I go to open that cutout, it's probably going to break on me. You open it up, it's going to fall apart. This case it actually didn't. Once I had the line out, I was able to open it. I couldn't even actually see any cracks in the cutout. So let's flip the camera around here. So there's our transformer pole up there, a little blurry. You can see I've got it open and untapped there right now. Can't really see the burn marks. The burn marks are actually on the back side of that pole. One thing you can do, as long as you maintain all of your standards, I mean, check with your own company policies and procedures. You have to maintain your clearances at all times. Be aware that if that fault does go to ground, you're gonna have an awful nasty flash. PPE or not, it's not a good situation. However, I have seen circumstances where you've got a pole fire and you've got a jumper feeding a switch of some sort, and we do have a set of cutters on a 6-foot stick. Alright, so we're going to approach this a little differently now. We're going to work above the work area. Reason being is that when I cut this lead, it's going to drop straight down. It's going to fall dead. We're going to cut it as close to the live side as possible. Boom, we are cleared. Hopefully we can get this fella off. That one sees as well. You can see as I'm turning, we don't want to pry on that too hard, because it's actually kinking the primary. So what we're going to do, well, this side's dead. I'm not too worried about stuff falling. We're gonna hang that right there. Now what we're gonna do, I'm actually gonna cut this guy clear off. So if you use your 6-foot insulated cutters, your hot stick, you can cut that lead off without shaking the pole at all, really. You position yourself kind of up above everything. Have all your rubber gloves, PPE on, give that lead a snip, and that lead will fall dead. You want to cut it up close to the live stuff, that way you don't have a live lead dangling there. So right now it's not raining real hard, it's just kind of misting out, and that's when the mist, the water droplets will actually kind of bond within the crack and allow that electricity easily track through it and try to find a path to ground or another phase or anything at all really that's of a different potential. So as that, in this case 7200 volts, is tracking through the porcelain cutout onto the steel arm, which is kind of isolated on the pole because wood is a semiconductor, it then starts traveling through the wood on the pole, which heats it up. After that goes on for, could be hours really, the pole will just combust into flames. So thankfully somebody's seen this one pretty well right away. I think we saved the pole. You've seen in the picture there, the pole, there's not a whole lot of damage to it. On the back side there's a burn mark maybe 6 inches around, 2 inches into the pole. We're gonna go up. We're actually gonna scrape the burned wood out of the pole because it can reignite. It's a pressure treated pole. You think the fire's out, it can reignite. If you scrape all that black stuff out, you're pretty safe. And then I'm gonna reinforce it with actually a section of crossarm. If there was any more damage to the pole, or if the top of the pole broke right off, we actually have a fiberglass extension. It's a fiberglass piece of pole. It's 5 feet long. It fastens to the top of the pole. Rather than spend 6 or 8 hours replacing the entire pole, you can just change that top piece, put a new crossarm on, away you go. So what you didn't get to see was when I rolled in, the whole street was blocked off by the fire department. There was 2 fire trucks here. I know the guys pretty well in the fire department in my town here from responding to calls like this. We work fairly efficient together. When they get the call, they block off the street. As soon as they get the call saying there's fire on the power lines, before driving here and showing up, check things out, they pretty much call my dispatcher right off the bat. That way it gets me out of bed and en route as quickly as possible. So upon my arrival, they had the road blocked off. They know not to shoot water at the lines. They also know not to go underneath it in case stuff starts falling apart. They keep a perimeter, generally at least 50 feet. You look online, sometimes it'll say keep 20 feet away to avoid step potential, or 30 feet. Or you want to keep more, the further away you are, better. It's not likely, but sometimes when these pole fires occur, you could have something short out and actually blow the porcelain apart, causing a hazard there. I got one guy on his way here right now. He'll be here in like 20 minutes. I've got a permit on the lines already. So as soon as he gets here, we're gonna set up, we're gonna ground the 3 phases, check potential, of course, and ground the 3 phases. And the other guy is on his way to the office to get some parts for us. So when he shows up with the parts, we'll have everything ready to go. Really, we should have things up and running here in less than 2 hours for sure. Be a fairly short outage. Like we do on all jobs, my next step here, the guys, like I said, he'll be here probably another 15 minutes or so now. So my first step while I'm waiting is to fill out our tailboard conference sheet. Basically, one of the most important first steps of any job, and that is to have your protection points, your address, first aid information, anything that's crucial information for your crew to know. Like for example, my radio right now is not working, so I'll note that on the tailboard conference. That way, if there's an emergency, the guys jump in the truck. We get that emergency button, goes right to our dispatcher. Mine's not available right now. The other trucks on site will have a radio. We are in cell coverage here, so we have to have coverage of some sort while we're working. If we don't have coverage, we will have some sort of a check-in service. If we're out in a rural area, we'll let our dispatcher know what we're doing, and we'll say by 4 a.m. if you don't hear from us, give us a call. Don't have check-in times, and if they don't hear from us, might have to send someone out, make sure everything's okay. Once the guys show up, we're gonna check potential on those lines, and we are going to install our grounds. we're gonna patch that spot, take the grounds off, close the line back in. There's not gonna be a whole lot of exciting stuff to see. So it's starting to rain out more and more there now. So we're gonna try to get that done as quickly as possible, as quickly and as safely as possible, of course. Alright guys, so that pretty well wraps up this call. I'm actually just pulled over on the side of the road, not far from my house right now, because well, there's no houses on this stretch, so give me an opportunity to write a report as to what we did for the call, fill out my timesheet, all that stuff, without having my noisy truck rumbling in the neighborhood there. So as you've seen in that last shot, we used a cross arm to patch the pole. It's not often, when you get to a job, when you get to a trouble call, you want to fix it up right the first time. It's not a good idea to get into the habit of patching things. If your whole grid consists of patches and temporary fix, I mean, years down the road, it's only going to fall apart on you. In this particular case, there was very, very little of the pole burnt. It was the passerby seeing the flames very early on. The fire department called me right away. I was on scene. Actually, I was in bed when I got the call, and from in bed to fully dressed on scene in my truck, 14 minutes went by. It was only about 5 or 6 kilometers from my house. So we got the fire out pretty quick. It burned a little hole in the pole, wasn't much. That's the only reason we did patch this one. We secured it. We'll never have to go back to that pole again. That cross arm will outlast every other piece of equipment on that pole, no problem. The fiberglass extensions, that's probably one of the most common fixes. The fiberglass extension itself actually costs more than the pole, but it's much cheaper to use a fiberglass extension because they're fairly quick to install. You just cut the pole off flush right above the transformer, put the extension on, you get a special drill bit that drills the fiberglass, put the wires back on the top, bang bang boom, away you go. Pretty quick and easy stuff. So actually, the last thing after I get this report filled out, I got the cutout in the back of my truck that cracked. We'll take a quick look at that before we call it night. It's about 3 a.m. right now, so we're gonna get back to bed here soon. Alright, so we got our porcelain cutout here. Now you can see if that was hanging on the pole, you're taking a look at things before you operate that cutout. It looks like it's in fairly good shape. There's no cracks in it or nothing. You can see here when you look real close, just that small hairline crack right there. That's what actually caused the pole fire. So this is sitting on the pole. We've got 7,200 volts coming into our cutout. This is insulated. This is steel, so that's conductive, clearly, going onto the wooden pole. If we only had, say, 120 volts, even 600 volts in that, cracks or not, there's no way 600 volts is going to track through that crack into the insides of that steel piece. So usually once these fellas show up is on days like today. It's not raining there now, but you get the moisture that'll run down and settle in that crack. It'll give the electricity enough time to kind of climb its way through. One good tip, guys, with porcelain cutouts, if you see my video with the thermocam, even on dry days, the thermocam will usually pick up at least a little bit of heat if there's an issue with the cutout. You're looking at the pole, you got that cutout hanging. If you look at the back where the grout is, this one here actually isn't bad. You can see it just started bubbling a little bit right there. Actually, you can see the rest of the crack right where that bubble is. So if you come across a cutout and it doesn't look like it's cracked, and this is all starting to bubble up, as that voltage, as that current's going through that grout, it'll actually cause it to heat up and bubble. It's a good indication that there's an issue with the cutout. So if ever you're about to open a porcelain cutout, take a little peek in behind at the grout there, and if it's starting to bubble, there could be an issue. Another thing too, if you ever do have a broken cutout, you hook your load buster on that hook, puts a whole lot of strain on that cutout body. That's a good time to break that cutout as well. Anyways guys, thanks for dropping into the channel again. We'll shoot me some questions, comments down below. If you got nothing to say, at least hit me up with a pound. Let me know that you're working safe out there. See you guys next time.